Hi everyone, welcome to the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name's Steve Reeves and I'll be your host. Actually, I'll be the guest too. This is going to be a great show. It's actually going to be an informative show because we've got a lot of calls lately about people that just got their computers for Christmas or over the holidays or whatever, knowing how to get things going, how to modify things, how to make them work, what kind of connections there are, all kinds of great stuff. So I brought everything I could carry, and we're going to show all kinds of things having to do with your brand new computer. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Children are the largest group of Americans living below the poverty line. They have to reach higher for what others take for granted. Health care, balanced meals, encouragement to learn. But with help early on, children in your community can gain the skills to get out from below the poverty line. It takes programs like Success by 6 and people like you to help them take the first step. Call to learn more. Change the world of a child, and you change the world.
Vince, that new dummy cam is great.
Yeah, it'll sure give people a whole new outlook on what it's like when you don't wear a safety belt.
I think they'll get the picture.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name's Steve Reeves and I'm the host tonight. And we've got a great show, like I said earlier. What it is, I'm going to explain it a little bit in case you missed the opening. We have a hotline and we have a lot of people that call in. As a matter of fact, the last time I checked the phones, we had the messages, we had 22 messages. So people really are calling in. And a lot of the calls that we've had recently after the holidays were I just bought a new computer, or I just got some new software, I got a new soundboard, I got this, that, whatever. And a lot of people have no idea how to make it work, or how to put it together, or how to plug it in, or what the different ports are on your computer. So we decided we would dedicate a show just to the new users. So we're entitling this Nerd 101, Nerds 101. So what we're going to do is go through, I've got all kinds of great stuff here, and we're going to explain what some of it is and how it plugs in and how it connects, and explain some of the things that people might not know, or what what it is or whatever. But first I need to go through a few of our housekeeping things here. One is the hotline. The phone number for our hotline is 587-5369. It's 587-5369. And you can leave messages of what you'd like to see in future shows like this one. And also we have an email address, which is ace@macaw.com, ace@macaw.com. And these will come up. There's a slide that comes up, and you can see how to get in touch with us and leave messages and things like that. But one thing that we also have a lot of callers. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go over some of these right now. One that we had a lot of questions about was the phone number for iLink. We did a show a couple weeks ago on internet with a guy. His name was Rod Dial from iLink in Austin. And the phone number to get in touch with those people is 512, get a piece of paper, by the way, write this down, 512-388-2393. That's 512-388-2393. They also have a fax line, which is 512-244-9681. 512-244-9681. And they're in Austin. Actually, they're in Round Rock, but same thing. And the other thing that I wanted to make sure is everyone knows is another question that a lot of people had was, when are we on the air? Well, obviously we're on the air right now, but we're on every Monday night at 7 to 8 o'clock, 1 hour. And we're also repeated Saturdays at 3 o'clock. So usually the same show is repeated again on Saturday at 3 o'clock. And then they also repeat us every so often whenever they need filler, I guess. I've seen the show at some really weird times, like Tuesday at midnight and Saturday at 11 o'clock at midnight and things like that. So if you want to see the show when it's first put on, that's Monday night at 7 o'clock or Saturday at 3 o'clock or whenever you're surfing the channels, you might see us also. Also, there was a couple other questions while I've got them going here. One was a guy had a question about OS2, if you could have multiple boot sessions or multiple boots in OS2 or Warp 3.0 for OS2. Yes, you can. You can boot up in DOS, you can boot up in or OS2, and you can actually go back and forth. It's just like regular OS2, so you can have multiple boots. We had a lot of people that said they liked the show. Actually, with my mother. But anyway, that's all we need to talk about. But make sure everybody knows this show. The title of the show is Nerds 101, because we have got a lot of new computer users after the holidays. So what we got to do, the first thing, is explain what some of the connections are on a computer. One of the very first things is you have mice. So I don't know if we can zoom in here. They told me I had to hold this up just right so you can see. Can you see this? Can you see this? Who's zooming in here? Who's zooming who here? All right. This right here, this actually isn't like this normally. But what this is, I have two connections here. One is a serial port. Can you see that? It has 9 pins. There's two different types of serial ports. And this is what usually a mouse or a modem or something like that. Usually a mouse or a modem is what plugs in serial ports, communication devices. And what this is, you can see this one is 25 pins. This is 9 pins. They're both the same kind of connections. They're both called serial ports, but the older computers always had 25 pins. The newer ones have the 9-pin connection. Some of them have one of each. Some of them have 2 9 pins. Some of them might have 2 25 pins. But for the most part, they either have 2 9s, or, which is 18, or a 9 and a 25, so that way you're prepared for whichever you have. And so like a mouse, for example, a typical serial mouse is either 9 pins or 25 pins, so it would actually just plug right in like that. And that's how you'd see it on the back of the computer. Like I said, I'm doing this just so you can see what's going on. But this is actually out of a computer. See, I like to make the camera guy hop around. But this connects to a board inside the computer. And also there's a regular cable. See, this is a 25-pin cable, serial cable, like you'd hook up to a modem, one end to the modem, one end to the computer. So if you had a 25-pin serial port in the back of your computer, this is how it would plug in, just like that. A lot of people, when they buy computers, they buy a modem, and for some unknown reason, this simple cable doesn't come with the modem. Certain modems now are coming with cables because it's kind of like selling a car without a key, because you can't use it without a modem cable. But you can buy these around town for, I mean, I've seen them as low as $1.99 in places like Micro Center or whatever. And so this is a modem cable, usually 25 to 25 pins or 9 to 25 pins. You can buy little adapters, for example, that go from 9 to 25, 9 pins to 25 pins. So if you happen to have a cable that's 25 pins to 25 pins, you can put this little adapter thing on here. Oop, wrong one. Little adapter thing right here. That's a technical term there, this little doohickey thing. Adapter thingamajig. And then you can plug that into your 9-pin. So if you for some reason have the wrong connection in your computer and you buy the wrong cable, you can always buy this little thing, or you can take the cable back. But anyway, that's a little 9 to 25 pin adapter cable. And they come both ways, 25 to 9 and 9 to 25, depending just with the different genders. Or you can also buy little gender changers. So if you have the wrong cable, you buy these in Sweden, these little gender changers. That's a joke. Anyway, what this does, it actually changes the 25, this is called male and female. The males have the pins, females are the holes, and what happens is you can plug this in and it actually will make it just the opposite. There's going to be a test on this, by the way. I don't know if anybody knew that. Take a lot of notes. You might want to put a tape in there because there is going to be a test, and we'll find out where you live. So anyway, that's explaining cables and pins and whatever. Now another thing that I didn't show here, I'm glad I wore a nice tie tonight. There's a lot of this right here. This is a joystick or game port. What this is you can see it's a little bit bigger than the serial port, and it's a little bit smaller than the serial port. And what this does is you can see a joystick, for example. This is a joystick. Pretty obvious. The connection of this plugs into here, into the game port. And this is 15 pins. I think that's what it is, 15 pins. I never actually counted. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And it plugs right in, and that's how a joystick or whatever would plug in. Now, sometimes you have a game port like this in the back of your computer, or sometimes you'll add it when you add a soundboard. And we'll get into this more later. But a soundboard usually has a joystick or a game port also. So a lot of times on the back of your computer you'll have two game slots or game ports or joystick ports. Usually what you want to do is disable one, because a lot of times they'll conflict with each other. And so the easiest way is usually to disable the one on the soundboard, like there's a little jumper switch or something on here. In the manual, they'll actually show you how to disable the joystick or the game port. And that's actually explained a little bit about ports. That is ports in a nutshell there. All right? Now, the next thing is, I'm sorry. I like to keep the camera people hopping around, you know what I mean? The next thing is parallel port. I forgot. There's more ports. I feel like a sailor, you know what I mean? There's a lot of ports around here. The other thing is parallel port. Now, the main difference, I'm saying all these things is just because there's a lot of people that don't have any idea what the difference is between ports. Some people might be bored, but just stay tuned. Everything will be fine. A parallel port is just the opposite of a serial port. It actually has holes as opposed to pins. That's the easiest way to explain it, but it's 25 pins, and that's what a typical, like, Hewlett-Packard LaserJet or a DeskJet or any kind of printer usually has a 25-pin parallel cable. And again, that looks just like, what do I do with my cable? Anyway, it has 25 pins. And then the next thing is our mouse ports. There's three different kinds of mouse ports. There's a serial port, like we went over earlier. There's also a bus mouse. A bus mouse is a little port. You probably can't see that. We'll just pretend you can. It has, instead of a little, it has like a little round connection. Now, there's two different kinds of round connections. One is a bus port, which comes on a card usually made by Microsoft or Logitech or whatever. And you can adjust this also. But this has a round one. There's also a PS2 port. They look pretty similar, but one is a little bit bigger than the other one. And I guess you just have to, and when you get a mouse, if you're buying a new mouse, for example, make sure you check the back of your computer what kind of port you have. You might want to even make a little drawing of it when you take it to buy a new mouse, because a lot of times you might have a bus mouse and you buy a PS2 mouse. You need to make sure which one you buy or which one you ask for. But those are the mouse ports. And they, like I said, they look real similar. I mean, if you just looked at them real fast, you would know there's a difference, but without zooming in about 500 times there, you couldn't see it. But one has a little notch in the middle of it in the PS2 mouse. But the mice themselves look identical. We have hanging mice here. You can see they look just the same, except the ends are what's different. So make sure you know when you go to buy a mouse. The other thing that a lot of people don't know about is memory. A lot of times, and this is one of our pet peeves, not of just this show, but a lot of computer people, is you buy this great, unbelievable computer, and it has a, it's either a 4666 or a Pentium PC, and it has only 4 megabytes of memory. Well, this is what people just like to show everything about computers. We're showing everything here. This is a SIM. They have more pins on the bottom, like a 72 pin. This is an older model, a 30 pin. What this is this is how you can add more memory to your computer. Like this is 1 megabyte. This right now, just for street price, is $50, around $50. It varies, but about $50 per megabyte. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is for most Windows applications, once you get into a lot of big spreadsheets and things, you may need more than 4 megabytes of RAM, so you might want to buy a couple of these. These are the simplest things to put in. A lot of people, when they buy it, they think they have to have some, computer nerd or something put it in, but they just stick right in, and a lot of times there's manuals that come with your computers that actually show you how to put it in. You can see how the other ones are in there, and you just follow the direction that the other ones are in and put them right in. That's the international symbol for putting in memory, just like that. And but the one thing that this is a 1 megabyte, and then there's also 4 megabyte SIMs. 4 megabyte SIMs, they usually go in multiples of 4. For example, 1 megabyte would be 4 of them make 4 megabytes. 8 make 8 megabytes. But if you want to go to 16 megabytes, you actually have to take all these 1 megabyte SIMs out, and then you replace them with 4 megabyte SIMs, which makes 16 megabytes. Like I said, there will be a test on this. But for the most part, you need to make sure when you upgrade your memory from 4 megabytes that you might want to go to 16 megabytes, because once you upgrade to 16, the 8 1 meg SIMs that you have in there are worthless unless you can find someone that'll buy them or someplace in town that may want to buy used computer chips. I know there is a place in town called Bass Computers that will actually buy used SIM chips and all kinds of different memory chips. All right? But that's a quick lesson on memory. All right? The other thing that a lot of people want to know about is tape drives. I just brought this tape drive. This is a Colorado 250 megabyte tape drive. Now, this is an internal. It's external right now because I have it out the computer, but it's an internal, and probably the best thing you could ever buy for your computer. It only takes one time to lose some super-duper document or something you drew or something you put together, some gigantic brochure or something, to pay for this. You can buy these now for less than $200, or a lot less than actually, and you can buy anything from 120. Nowadays, most popular is 250 megabytes, but you can buy up to 340. There's some new ones out there too. Then the tapes. I know you can buy these things for less than $10, or depending on there's different qualities of tape, but it only takes, like for example, to back up 100 megabytes, it'll take 30 minutes on most of the new tape drives. You just put it in there and back it up and go to bed and let it be finished in the morning or something. But it's probably one of the best things you could ever buy if you have a lot of valuable information. I know a guy that recently at work didn't have a backup of his system, had some trouble with his double space drive, and what happened was he had no backup. So he lost every single thing that he had, and because we were unable to get back all the double space because it was all corrupted data. But he had no backup. If we would have had just this $10 or $12 tape, we could have just restored all his data on there, and away he went. But didn't have anything, so he had to type everything over. But the one thing you want to do is on the tape drives is make sure you keep some sort of a schedule for backing things up, like once a week, once a month, or whatever. Usually as much as possible. But like I said, for 100 megabytes usually takes 30 minutes or less. Another thing that a lot of people have got recently for Christmas or over the holidays is a modem. Now these modems vary in just about every size and speed and price known to man. Now this is a Hayes modem, but what this is I'm over here now, sorry. And this has the serial port on the back, the connection for the phone, just a regular old phone cord, plugs into the back of here, and also the little connection so you can plug your phone in, and over here, and then the power on-off switch. And it has, most of them nowadays are fax modems. So not only can you send information or connect to bulletin boards and things like that, but also send and receive faxes over the same device. And these things go from anywhere from 49 to, like I said, the sky's the limit for some of the new 28.8, that's 28,800 baud modems. And what this again, the faster the modem, the more data that can go over it, and a lot of times you'll save a lot of access time to bulletin boards and things like that. But we're going to have to take a quick break, So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
She is one of America's toughest drug enforcement agents. Last year, she helped convict 90 drug dealers, seize several tons of crack and marijuana, and close down 10 major drug operations. She is a 68-year-old grandmother named Irma. She set up a community drug watch that is not only changing her neighborhood, but its future. There are many ways to help in your community. Call the Points of Light Foundation. Do something good. Feel something real.
He protects all living things in the forest. But he can't do it alone. Please don't play with matches. Put out your campfires. And never, ever forget the words of Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name's Steve Reeves. I'm your host tonight. And what we're doing tonight is answering some of our requests from our hotline, which, by the way, is 587-5369, 587-5369. It's only been about 8 weeks. I finally memorized the number. Anyways, and also, while I've got it out, the number, it's our email address is ace@macaw.com, ace@macaw.com. We're on every Monday night at 7 o'clock, repeated at 7 o'clock at 3 o'clock on every Saturday afternoon, and that's about it. That's all I know. And by the way, this show is entitled Nerds 101. And what we're doing is we're taking a look at all kinds of different hardware and things, and as soon as I'm finished, I just have a few more things to show, and then we're going to get into Windows and showing how to modify things, set things up, change things, make your system a little bit faster, be able to answer questions if you have to call like a computer place and they ask you like how much memory do I have or whatever. That was my user impression. How much memory do I have? Or how big's your hard drive? Or whatever, you know. And so we're going to show you how to get that information and how to check disk and all kinds of fun stuff. But what we need to do is I'm going to make the cameraman jump around a little bit here. One of the most important things next to tape drives is, where do you want me to put this? Over here? Here? Where am I going here? Which camera's on? I can't see. This one over here? This one is a surge protector. You have to shake it like that, a surge protector. This is just a little one right here, but any kind of surge protector, no matter what size, is good because, again, just like a tape drive, it's protection. No matter, it only takes one time for your power to zap or something, and your computer turns off and you hadn't saved your file or something, hadn't saved it to the hard drive or to a floppy. This surge protector will pay for itself that very first time. Now, you can buy these just about anywhere. This is just a little one, like I said, that has 3 different plugs. You can buy them that fit underneath your computer. That's that, again, that international system symbol for underneath the computer, that have different buttons you can press, or there's ones that have, 6 or 8 plugs. But you can buy these anywhere at Target or any computer place. Not that Target's a computer place, but, I mean, you can buy them at Target or you can buy them at a computer place. And they're just about every price range known to man, from $5 to over $100 for the super duper ones. You can also get them with a surge protector for your modem that plugs in. The modem plugs in and actually protect your modem because some power actually goes through the phone cords. The other thing I want to talk about real fast are these little extender cables. A lot of people will have a computer on their desk or on their floor and they need to run cables up. you can buy extender cables for your monitor, for your keyboard, for your mouse, and these are available in just about any length. You can buy the stretchy kind, or this is straight through cables for the PS2 connectors for the mouse or for the keyboard or whatever. This is a regular keyboard extender here that has the regular keyboard connection. And the last thing I want to talk about as far as hardware or whatever is a hard drive. Now, a lot of people don't realize what a hard drive looks like or what it is or anything else. This is a hard drive. This is actually a 345 megabyte hard drive and made by Mac Store. And you can see it's not very big or not very thick or anything else. And actually, this is actually a pretty big one compared to some of them that fit in some of the notebooks and things. And the prices of these things, the hard drives, have come down, unbelievable. Actually, in the last 6 months, you can buy like a 300, 400, 500 megabyte hard drive. And a year ago, nobody could really afford in the homes, or mostly just businesses. But you can buy a 500 meg hard drive now for $200 or less. It's unbelievable. And these, a lot of times what happens is you can keep your old hard drive in there if you have like a 200 megabyte hard drive and just add a 500 meg or whatever, or you can just take the other one out of there and put this in by itself. But this, it's not that it's hard to put in, but you might want to have somebody that knows what they're doing if you want to put another hard drive in, because there's little switches you have to set and little jumpers and things like that, but it's not that really hard to put in, and there's cables that connect to it and whatever. So one other thing I want to do, I forgot to mention this again, a lot of people called in last week and wanted to know the phone number to iLink, the internet provider. The guy that was on the show's name was Rod Dial, and the phone number is 512-388-2393, and their fax number is 512-288-9681. And like I said, they're in Austin, and you can call them tomorrow or whatever. And so what we need to do, I guess, is jump right into the show. I've already jumped in, but now we're going to really jump in. And start off with going to the computer here. So again, I've got to get the camera guy ready here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off right in the beginning as far as knowing what's going on, as far as knowing what's in your computer. One of the most useful utilities that comes with, I need to bring up the screen here, is MSD. At the DOS prompt, you type in MSD. And what happens is it pops up, and this is Microsoft Diagnostics. And what happens is it'll tell you everything you'd ever want to know about your computer, like that this is a Toshiba. This is actually a notebook closed with an external keyboard and a monitor and a mouse hooked up to it. How much memory you have, what kind of video card you have, if you have a network connected, what version of DOS you're using, if you have a mouse. So it says Toshiba 46. And you can hit over the top of this with your mouse, and it'll tell you everything you'd want to know about that, exactly what's going on. And you can say how much memory. It'll tell you everything, probably more than you'd ever want to know about your memory. But actually, if someone needs to know, like if you're calling technical support, like a Microsoft, or for your hardware, for your computer, or something else, you can instantly tell them. So you just type in at the DOS prompt, MSD, Microsoft Diagnostics, video. You can go in there and find out about your disk drives. It tells you the size of your hard drive, tells you if your floppy's connected, tells you how many printer ports you might have, how many communications ports, serial ports you might have, 1 or 2. Another thing that's really important is your IRQ. We won't get much into that. That's another advanced, that's Nerds 102. But what that does, it tells you a little more about what everything's set to. For example, if you put in a game card, for example, this is a game card, a sound card with a game port, you might have some interrupt problems. I could guarantee you'll have interrupt problems. How about that? What happens is your CD-ROM might not work, your mouse might not work, or whatever. There's different settings that'll tell you if there's one installed. Like there's a LPT2, that's another printer port. Maybe you have 2 printers. If not, that's usually open, so you could set that soundboard to that IRQ. Or interrupt. It tells you where your mouse is set, your floppy, everything else. This is just a really fast overview of how to find out about your computer. So we'll just exit out of that, and you can see it works with the mouse. Now, what we'll do is we'll go into Windows. Windows, you just type in Win. Simple and easy, Win. Comes up, Microsoft Windows, loads some software if there's anything that might be loading when you load Windows. And also, one little trick is if you type in Win with a colon after it, it won't come up with that little Microsoft Windows logo. It's actually a little free commercial there. So what it does, it comes up just like this. What they need to do is, this is actually Windows for Workgroups, which is the same as Windows. The only difference is Windows for Workgroups will actually allow you to network Windows together with multiple computers. It has a couple of other options like mail and faxes, and you can, has a little more, not advanced, but more options on the file manager. It has a few more utilities. It has 32-bit access to your hard drive, which speeds things up a little bit, and that's pretty much it. If you ever have to install Windows, which 99.9% of the computers that come out that you buy today, a lot of these turnkey systems that come with a computer, monitor, everything else, Windows installed. But for some unknown reason, you delete it or whatever, you have to install Windows. It's all you do is put in the disk in A, the Windows setup disk, type A:, setup, and usually, like I said, 100% of the time, you'd want to use Express Setup. You just hit return, 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 go through the whole 9 yards. It's real simple. So what we need to do is go through some of these icons. I think, can you zoom? It's zoomed in. It looks great. What happens is we'll explain the desktop. Now, a lot of people that just bought computers that have Windows don't realize how some of this works, and it's actually real simple. I mean, you can just drag things around. You just hit on the top of that green bar, or whatever color you might have, and we'll show a little bit about how to modify this. You can drag that around. You can make it different sizes, you know, whatever you want to do. These little buttons on the side, there's little arrows. Can you zoom in on this little part right here? I don't know if you can zoom in real far. Is that as far as you can go in? I don't know, right in. Oh, that's great. A little bit further. Great, that's it right there. See these little buttons right here? You can drag this up and down. There's little arrows you can go up and down. So you can have little windows if you want, or big windows. So what I usually do is I usually set this little settings up here. There's File, the File, Run, File Properties, Options, Windows, Help. One of the handiest things about Windows is the F1 key, or the Help. You go to Help and you go to Contents or whatever, but you can just hit F1 at any time, no matter where you are, and it comes up with a Help menu. No matter if you're in Word, or if you're in Windows, or you're in Excel, or usually if you're even in most games, even in Windows games, if you hit F1, it comes up with a Help screen. And you can toggle down and see what's going on. Again, use the mouse that goes up and down. And you can File, Exit. Almost all programs have the same identical settings for the pull-down menu. You just go to File and you go Exit or Options or whatever. They're all the same sort of pull-down menus. So what we want to do on here is what I'm going to do is show how you get around Windows. This right here is a group, a bunch of icons. If you double-click on the side of this, or right here in this corner, that's how you can close this. Just double-click with your mouse. Button 1 here on the mouse. That's button 1. That's button 2. All right? So if we double-click on the icon like Main right here, it opens up the windows. And you can open up a bunch of these. That's good English. A whole bunch of windows. Now you can see it gets pretty messy. What you can do, one of the first things you like to do is go to Windows, and you can see there's one thing called Tile. If you hit Tile, it arranges them in some order. Then you can use this to toggle up and down. Now, some people like to have a lot of windows open. Personally, I don't. I like to have as few open as possible, and I just open them as I need them. But, you know, I guess it's user preference. So you can go up here to Main, keep one open just like that. Another thing that I always do is I set up, you can see this little, drag the mouse around, and you can make this bigger or smaller. See that corner? You just drag it, hit it with the button, drag it up and down just like that. I like to make my own little menu with things that I like to use all the time. So what I'll do is I'll make one that's called, well, we just call it Today's Show or something like that. So what I do is I go up here to File and put New, and it'll give us two options, Program Group or Program Item. We're going to do a group. And what happens is it'll ask us for a name, and we'll call it Today's Show. Oop, I have Numlock on there. That's what my mother used to call me, Numlock. So we'll call it Today's Show. And what happens is it comes with a little icon, an icon group, and it says right there, Today's Show. Now we can make this a little bit smaller, and we can open up some of these icons, like main, for example, and we can drag these items over into our show, into today's show window, or we can copy them. And how you copy things, this is one of our little hints here, is our little tips, is there's hotkeys. If you hold down the control key on the keyboard and then drag it over, it'll not only keep the one that was there, it'll just copy it over there. So if you hit down the shift key and drag over, that's control panel. File manager will drag this over like that. You can copy them so that someday if you ever delete these by mistake, the one that's called Today's Show, you always have the old ones. Now some people don't like all kinds of different icons all over, but I like to keep some of them over and over. So we can just close that one, and we can go over here to Microsoft Tools, and there might be something here like MSD. I made a little icon here called MSD, which is at Microsoft Diagnostics. I can drag that over and put it in there. Now we can close that one by double-clicking in this corner right here, in this corner right there. And we close that window. And you can see now we have some icons that are in, and these are the ones I use all the time. So you don't have to keep opening up 27 different windows to find what you're looking for. You can just use the ones that you have and use all the time. Like games, I need to copy Solitaire over there because I like Solitaire. So we'll drag Solitaire up there. And then there's also things like Microsoft Office. I might use Word, Microsoft Word. I'll drag that up here, put a copy of it up there. And now we can go just like that. So now what we're going to do is go right into like starting some of these different icons. Well, one of the most popular ones, or one that people use all the time, is File Manager. We go into File Manager, double-click on this little filing cabinet. And what happens is looks like another program comes up. And what this is, these are all the directories. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's all the directories like America Online, Ballpoint for the mouse, there's Connect, there's CServe for CompuServe, there's DOS, there's Excel, there's all these different directories over here. Now, when you double-click or just hit, well, actually, you just hit over the top of that, on the right-hand side, it will show you what's in that directory. So if we hit over the top of Ballpoint, you can see there's mouse, and there's mouse manager, and pointer, and a README file, and different things. And you can see everything that comes up there. Now, what we can do in File Manager is used for a lot of different things. It's probably the most popular part of Windows because you can use it to copy things, move things, delete files. You can actually drag and drop things across the desktop. You can use this to format disks so that you can use them to write to disks and things. So we can do, like, for example, we can make a directory. Let's go to this. Go up to the C up here, which is the name of your hard drive, C:, and we can go to File, and we can say Create Directory. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a directory that's called Ace Show. And we just type in Ace Show and hit OK. And you can see, you can't see it, but right, I don't know if you can read that or not. Can they zoom in any more on this or not? It's right there. It says Ace Show. So let's say we want to go into Ballpoint, and we can drag some of this stuff over there. We can just hit over the top of this file right here and drag it right over to the top. You can see I'm dragging it right over and placing it inside this Ace Show. And we say, OK. And what it does is it drags it over there. So if we open up this directory, Ace Show, and you can see now there's a mouse.ini file in there. Probably what I ought to do before we go any further is show you how to change the text fonts on File Manager. Let's go up to Options and go to Fonts, and we can change this font file to like 18. If we go over here, ooh, there, that's better. Can you see that better now? There's a big fonts. That's a technical term there. Big old fonts. So now you can, if we open up this again, you can see now there's this file. We can drag it over the top of this and say yes, and it copies that file. Now the one thing about what we're doing right now is it's actually moving it. It's not copying it. It's actually moving it over. So what we need to do is when we go to Ace Show, you can see that there's these two files. They're no longer in the Ballpoint directory. So what we need to do is just copy these back. And we'll copy it back over to the Ballpoint, say yes, and copy this over to the Ballpoint, say yes. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to move files so that these remain where they are. And so what you need to do is, again, hotkeys. You can hold down, hit that button right there with the button 1. And if you hold down the Control button, you can hit multiple files and then drag them over there when you drag them, you hold down the control key and move it over to A show, and not only does it copy it, it also, it moves them and copies them. So you save the file over here on the right-hand side, and it has the file in that directory. So you can see it's copying all those files that I'd highlight. See, they're still there, and they're in this directory too. So you can do that. Now, one thing, there's a couple different hotkeys that you can use. One is the control, the other is shift. So if we hit this button and we just hit another one, you can see that it just highlights one file at a time. Oop, we're going to have to take a quick break here. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
October 1987, a small child is rescued from an abandoned well. No country comes to the aid of a child the way we do. Yet today, millions of children need our help, lost in an education system unable to prepare them for today's competitive world. Imagine if that same effort went into keeping the promise that every child gets the best education and has a future. Call 1-800-96-PROMISE for information on changing the schools in your community.
Because disaster strikes someone every single day, there's always going to be one more night someone needs food, shelter, and a place to rest. Please support the American Red Cross. Because without your help, one more night could be hard to come by.
You don't have to embarrass a friend to keep her from drinking and driving. You could just explain things to her.
It's 6:45 and our party's at 9, and I still got shopping to do. But if you drive, you'll have to drop me off and pick me up, and then I'll be late and you won't be ready. So I'm going to drive and drop you off, and then I'm going to do all the things I need to do, and I'll be back in time to help you set things up. Okay? All right.
Take the keys, call a cab, take a stand. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, like I say every time, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name's Steve Reeves, and I'm your host. And we've got 15 minutes to smash every single thing you'd ever want to know about Windows in 15 minutes. I don't think we can do it. We're going to have a Nerds 102, Nerds 103. We're going to have multiple shows. So if we can't smash everything in the next 15 minutes, which I know we can't, we're going to have to do a lot more different shows. We'll have them through the season, different startups, Windows, how to get things going, how to modify things, whatever. But I think we're going to have to do, one last thing. Hotline number, 587-5369, 587-5369. Email is ace@macaw.com, ace@macaw.com. And that's about it. So let's go right to the computer. And one thing that I wanted to talk about, everyone wants to know how to speed up Windows. One of the things that you can do to speed it up right away is open up the control panel. That's one of the little icons in our today's show, or it's usually in the main icon. You double-click on the icon called Control Panel, and a group of icons come up. There's color, fonts, ports, mouse, desktop, keyboard, printer, all kinds of fun stuff. But the one that you want to look at is called 3D Enhanced. You double-click on that icon named 3D Enhanced, and what happens is another dialog box comes up, or dialog menu comes up. And you can see there's all kinds of, it might as well be in Russian or German because nobody has any idea what it all means. But the only thing you're really concerned about is a thing that's called virtual memory. You hit over the top of virtual memory, and another little box comes up, and you can see it says Drive C, the size and type of virtual memory. What most computers that come straight out of the box have it set up for temporary, where it says temporary swap file or temporary virtual memory. You want that to be permanent. Just changing that from a temporary or from none to permanent makes a huge difference in speed. So you do is hit change, and then another, this is like 10 billion boxes here, comes up, and you can see right here it says C drive, and it says temporary. Right here it says C drive, it says temporary. You want to change that to permanent, or permanent, as we say in Ohio, permanent. And then what you need to do is when you change that to permanent, I'm just kidding, permanent, it'll give you a number down in the bottom. And it usually, the default is what you want to use most of the time, but usually the standard or whatever is twice the amount of RAM you have in your computer. So if you have 4 megabytes of RAM, make it 8,000 or 8 megabytes. It's usually 8 times 1024, 8 times 1024. If you have 8 megs, you make it 16 megabytes. If you have whatever, usually the most you want to make it is 20 megabytes unless your software specifically tells you to make more memory than 20 megabytes. Some CAD programs like the new AutoCAD Release 13 and things like that, I mean, you need like a 32 or a 64 megabyte swap file or a virtual memory. I usually keep it around 20 megabytes because I have 20 megabytes of RAM in here and it doesn't make any more sense to make it bigger than 20. Then you hit OK. I'm just going to cancel it because I don't want to change what I have on here. And usually what will happen is come up and say so-and-so, whatever, 8 megabyte permanent swap file made or created, and ask you to reboot the computer or restart Windows. You say yes or no, and you say yes. It restarts Windows, and bada bing, bada boom, it comes up, and you're ready. And 99.9% of the time, you'll notice a speed increase because what it does, it actually makes you think. It uses part of your hard drive as like RAM, and it speeds up your computer because it thinks you have more memory than you actually have. So another thing that a lot of people like to do with Windows is when it comes straight out of the box, it's pretty boring looking. It just has blues and things. You can change the colors. You can go to, there's a little icon in the control panel called Colors, and it gives you a bunch. I use Arizona, that's what I have right here. If you hit on the top of this little arrow right here, it gives you all kinds of different options like cinnamon, there's some pretty wild colors there, or hot dog stand. Ooh, there's some real nice colors. We'll use that one. And we'll go down here to OK. And, ooh, wow, that is nice looking there, huh? Ooh, man, that is pretty ugly. So we'll change it back to something that we can stand, like mahogany. Ooh, that's a nice one. We'll hit OK. That's a little easier to see. Can you see that? Does that look good on the screen? Is that okay? And then another thing that a lot of people like to do is under desktop. If you double-click on the desktop icon, can you read that at all? Can you see that? You can see there's things like screensaver. Like we have one that's called Marquee. There's blank screen, flying windows. There's no real reason to go out and buy a screensaver like After Dark or anything else unless you just get bored with the ones that come with you, or you want to do some wacky, like see flying toasters or whatever you want to see going across the screen. But a lot of people like to make just the flying windows, or the one that I like is Marquee because it allows you to specify what you want to put on your computer. I usually make it about 10-minute delay. That means if you don't use your computer, in 10 minutes it blanks the screen and it has whatever you want on the screen. We'll change it down to like 1 minute or something. And you go to Setup. And you can, right here, it'll ask you what you want to type in. Or I typed American Computer Enthusiast Show. You can change the colors. You can change the text fonts. You can change everything. And because I set it at 1 minute, after 1 minute it'll blank the screen and bring it up. Nowadays, there isn't as much screen burning as there used to be, where it used to, if you had something on the screen for any length of time, it would actually show the impression of whatever was on the screen, would burn it into the screen. The other thing is wallpaper. You can change the background of windows. Like if you wanted to change this to, since it's winter, or all the leaves are falling, I know that because I just raked my leaves this weekend and cleaned my gutter out. There's all kinds of things like leaves, there's argyle, there's honey. If you hit honey, you want to make sure you make it tile so it'll cover everything. Hit OK, and you can see the background. If we close by hitting this little down arrow right here, which means minimize, you can see there's the honeycomb on the screen. Now you can find all kinds of fun stuff. You can actually draw something in Paintbrush and save it as a bitmap, a BMP file, and you can actually make whatever you want. You can draw your name there or whatever you want, or you can actually have things scanned in and make it into a bitmap file, and you can have a picture of your dog on the screen or whatever you want, a picture of your mother-in-law or whatever you want there. And so we can go back into Control Panel. One little button that I forgot to tell you about is another toggle button, is the Alt-Tab button. Alt-Tab. You hold down the Alt key and hit Tab, and what it does is it toggles through the different open programs that are loaded right now. So we go back to Control Panel, let go, and Control Panel pops up. The other one is Control Escape. And what that is the task list. And it actually shows you on the screen what's open, and then you can just double click or just hit over the top and then hit Switch to, and it comes up. I use the Alt-Tab all the time because I want to go back and forth, toggle back and forth. So we'll go back to the desktop, turn off Honey, and we'll just make it None. I do find, I don't know if this is actually a fact, but this is a little Steve fact, the less things you have on, the less like wallpaper and patterns and things you have on, the faster your computer seems to be. So don't use all these fancy schmancy wallpapers and things unless you really just want to make your computer look good. I find if you turn them off, it actually speeds things up. So I usually set my wallpaper to none and my pattern to none. So we'll just hit OK, and it comes up. I'm going to change that color back to Arizona just because to me it looks kind of hard to read here. Arizona, and hit OK, like that. Now another thing you want to do is printer. Under Control Panel, there's also an icon for printers. If you double click over the top of the printer, this is where you would load in what printer you're using. Like I have multiple printers here, the DeskJet 500, the LaserJet 3P, that's what I have at home. And also where you'd set up like your fax modem, WinFax Pro, I have that set up as COM2. And you can, underneath there's all kinds of different icons like to connect. You can tell it that it's connected to your LPT1 or your parallel port 1 or something like that. And we'll just close that. And the other thing that I want to show is, because this time is going fast, way too fast here, is how you start up a program. For example, Microsoft Word. If you had Word loaded, you could just double click on the top of that, double click on the top of Word, and the program will open up. The screen, usually in the beginning, will come up with Microsoft Word, the version number, and then boom, it'll pop up and it's got the screen. Now, almost like I was saying earlier, almost every Windows program has the same type of icons across the top. We'll have to do another program on all the different things like cut and paste, but if you go in there and do File, Open, a little dialog box will come up and say, I want to bring up, you know, ACE, Warp, which is one of the notes I did on the show that we did on Warp a couple weeks ago. And you can see it comes up, and you can highlight things with the mouse and drag them around and place them on the screen and goof it all up and everything else, and then File, Save. You go to File and you go to Save or Save As. The difference between Save and the Save As, Save will just save it as the same name, or Save As, you can save it as a different name. And then Exit, you can just go down here to Exit, just ask if you want to change it. We'll say no, because I don't want to goof up what I put on there. Another thing that a lot of people don't know comes with Windows or DOS are some Microsoft tools, things like the antivirus. Antivirus is another real important thing that you need to use all the time if you're swapping disks and things with other people or that have downloaded things from other people and got from different hard drives and whatever. If you go to the antivirus, double-click on this little icon of this little doctor with a stethoscope, and you just double-click on that, and then when you want to pick the drive that you're working on, you can actually check drives, disks in your A drive, or you can check your hard drive. So if I hit C, for example, it goes through all the directories on the C drive, checks for any virus. Hopefully there are none. One that's real popular right now is the Forms virus, which you don't really notice unless you try to make like a 32-bit access on your hard drive or something like that. And then you just hit Detect and Clean right down here, and boom, it'll detect and clean any virus on your computer. And that comes with DOS 6.2 or 6.2 and above, and you can just close that. Another thing that's really good that most people don't know is on here, there's also a backup command, a backup to disk. So if you want to if you don't have a tape drive, for example, you can double-click on the backup icon, and it'll back up to multiple floppies. Now you can use a lot of floppies if you have like a 3.5-inch floppy, hundreds of them, I guess. But if you want to back up a directory that's got like 100 files or whatever, you can do it to floppies, and it'll be a lot easier to do that. And you can see you can back up all files, or you can back up selected files down here. So we'll just close that. Another popular thing that a lot of people don't realize that comes with it is undelete. If you do undelete, say for instance you deleted a file by mistake on your hard drive, it'll actually come up there and you can change directories and go in there, and what it does is you hit the file and you say undelete, and it'll ask you for the first letter. You have to know the first letter because it puts a little question mark there. Now that's another great little utility. And another thing that a lot of people ask about is how do I change the resolution? 99.9%, I use that number a lot. I also use the word bajillion a lot too, zillions, is how do you change the resolution of your monitor. Like I said, about 99.9% of the computers that come straight out of the box that you buy it, all these different computer places come standard resolution, 640 by 480, which is what I have up here. But you can get, with most monitors that come with computers, you can go to 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768 resolution. And what you do on that is you go to Main, and there's a little icon that's called Windows Setup. And what that does, it'll tell you exactly what you have set up as your display. Right now I have the Toshiba display at 800 by 600 and 256 colors. If you go here to Options and go to Change System Setups, it'll have under Display a whole list of different resolutions and colors and everything else. We're just going to leave it the way it is. But you can change it 800 by 600, 1024 by 768, hit over the top of it, and usually it'll ask for a disk like your Windows disks or a disk that comes with your graphics card or whatever. Another thing is that you'd want to know about is the, again, online help is this F1, print manager. If you go to under the Main again, if say for instance you try to print something out and you don't know where it went, you can go to the control panel. Oh, I'm sorry, I went too far there. I go to the double click on the print manager icon and it'll show you the status of your print jobs. Say, for instance, it's printing, it's a huge job and you don't know where it is, it's not coming out. You can tell you what percentage it is it's being done or where it is, or if it's locked up or something's wrong, it's in the network or whatever it might be. Another thing that's real important is how you quit. There's multiple ways to quit Windows. You can go to File, Exit Windows, and it'll say, you sure you want to quit? You say yes, but we'll hit Cancel. Or you can do hotkeys. You can hit Alt, which lights up the icon up there on top, F for file, file, and X for exit, and it'll get you out of that way. Or you can do Alt F4, and Alt F4 gets you out of it like that too. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Anyways, we're running out of time here. So what I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to promise you that we're going to do not just one more show, a lot of shows on Windows and setting up computers and how to make things better and faster and colors and setups and all kinds of things. But make sure everybody calls the hotline, 587-5369. I'm not sure what the next week's show is, but I know the week after that we're going to have Apple on and talk about some of the new Macintoshes and things. I guess that's the end of our show. We've got, I want to thank my guest, Steve Reeves. No, I'm just kidding. And, but I know James DiMaggio is doing the show next week. I guess that's it. We'll see you later.